Man, did I have a medical scare the other day, you guys. Freaked me out. Probably the scariest thing that has happened to me in a long time. So I am on the phone with our Bert's Big Adventure program director. I'm on FaceTime because I don't like talking on the phone. I for whatever reason, it's way more comfortable for me to look at you in a conversation than actually just have a phone conversation. I lose all sorts of focus if we're just talking on the phone. But if I'm looking at you, there's some accountability there. I can see you spacing out on me, Bert. What are you doing?
I appreciate you are self-aware enough to know that about yourself, which is why you approve of the FaceTime.
I hate talking on the phone, but I do like FaceTiming. And most of the time, my FaceTimes go like you reject them, decline them, and then 3 minutes later, you'll call me back on FaceTime after the hair looks nice and the makeup's on. I get what you're doing.
Or I'm off the turlet.
You're off the turlet, right. So anyway, I'm on the phone with our program director from Bert's Big Adventure. That's our trip that we take down to Disney World every year with kids that have chronic and terminal illnesses, and she runs the show, right? So she calls me, and we're on FaceTime together, and I could see this fear come over her face like she saw a ghost behind me, like literal fear. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And she says, you can't hear that? And I'm like, no, I can't hear anything. She's like, you don't hear yourself lisping right now. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? And she's not an actress. I mean, she is white as a ghost, and she is really nervous. And every time I speak, every time I say something that has an S or a T in it, she kind of shakes her head like, you can't, how is it possible you can't hear that? And I'm like, Molly, are you jacking with me right now? Are you recording this? Because you're starting to freak me out a little bit. And again, every time that I'm using an S or a T, she's like, Bert, I am not kidding. You are speaking with a lisp right now. And I continue to talk to her, and I'm starting to get nervous now. My heart's starting to palpitate a little bit. I'm starting to get a little hot. Like, imagine the mind F that's going on with me, because it sounds like I'm talking just like this, and she's looking at me going, dude, there is something really wrong with you. Like, you call 911 or call Tiffany. And I'm speaking back to her, and she happens to have another Bert's Big Adventure employee there in the office who hears it also. So she's like, she hears it too. Go call, get off the phone with me right now and go call Tiffany. So
that's a sign that something neurological can be happening.
Right.
Like bad.
I'm starting to freak out because I hear myself clear as just like this. But every time I say an S, she's like, I'm serious, Bert, you need to hang up the phone with me right now and call 911. So I hang up with her, and before I call 911, I just want to make sure she's not tricking me or anything, but she wouldn't do this. This is too much of a prank, right?
Yeah.
So I record myself and I audition to hear myself if I have a lisp or not. So I don't even know what I said, but I just needed to hear my voice and make sure I didn't have this lisp. So I record myself and I play it back, and I don't hear anything. I hear nothing, right? So then I go to the mirror and I start talking in the mirror to myself.
Instead of calling 911.
Yeah. When he's in the beginning stages of a possible stroke, they get him to the hospital, and they're like, what took it? He started laying down some endorsement tracks. And then he started looking at himself in the mirror and doing like practice like speeches.
So I'm talking to myself in the mirror, and I don't hear it. So I get back on the phone with Molly, and I FaceTime her. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. And as soon as I start talking, she's like, Bert, I'm serious right now. Like, call Tiffany right now. Something is wrong. So I'm like, okay. So I am really freaking out now because I can't hear what she's talking about, yet Molly is clearly concerned about me, right? So Tiffany walks in the door, and I'm like, Tiffany, am I talking with a lisp? She's like, what the hell are you even talking about? And I'm like, talk to me for 30 seconds. Tell me about, I'm going to tell you about my day, right? So I start telling, she's like, no, everything's absolutely fine. I call Molly back on FaceTime, and it's clear as day. She's like, it's gone.
What?
I'm like, what do you mean it's gone? She's like, no, you sound fine now. So I hang up and I call her back, and there was just the slightest glitch in her FaceTime, in her connection, that made every S and every T sound like a lisp, but it wasn't happening in real life. but she really thought it was happening.
Oh, man.
And she was convincing me that there was something going on that I couldn't hear in my own head.
That's why I don't FaceTime. There's too much responsibility.
Can I tell you how freaked out I was that her reality was reality and I couldn't feel or see exactly what was going on in my own body? I was almost in a panic. Almost in a panic.
That might be the greatest accidental prank of all time. Like, she didn't mean it.
You want to really freak somebody out? Do that to him today.
That's mean.
The Bert Show.